Welcome to the debate. And before we dive into today's topic, just a quick reminder that you are watching NFL Nexus. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment on what you think about today's discussion.
Yeah, and hey, become a channel member. You get exclusive content, some really cool perks. Just hit that join button right down below.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get right into it. When you look at the 2026 Miami Dolphins under this new regime, General Manager John Eric Sullivan and head coach Jeff Hafley, you are essentially watching a front office actively, shred the modern NFL team building manual.
Oh, completely shred it. It's wild.
Right? They've handed the keys to a brand new quarterback in Malik Willis. And rather than surrounding him with established, highly paid superstars, they've flooded the roster with a staggering league-high 13 draft picks. It's a completely decentralized roster now. And, well, honestly, I think we're placing that top-heavy superstar talent with this high volume of draft picks and positional versatility. It's a brilliant foundation. It protects against catastrophic failure.
See, I couldn't disagree more. To me, this sheer volume of picks is, it's just a mirage. It's hiding a fatal lack of elite talent.
A mirage? I mean, it is definitely the core philosophical question heading into the season, right? The prevailing wisdom over the last decade has basically been the superstar model. You erect 2 or 3 massive, undeniable forces
Exactly.
who bear almost all the structural weight of your team. And then you fill in the gaps with minimum salary veterans and, late-round picks. But the Dolphins are pivoting so hard when you look at this 13-pick draft class, which analysts have recently upgraded to 12th overall in the league, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
You see a phenomenal distribution of assets. Instead of putting all their chips on 1 or 2 fragile superstars, they're employing a really strategic emphasis on positional versatility. I mean, they drafted Caden Proctor 12th overall. He's a mammoth tackle transitioning to guard.
Right.
They took cornerback Chris Johnson in the first round, a player whose tape shows him seamlessly operating both outside and at nickel. And they're pairing these versatile rookies with incredibly innovative depth maneuvers, like converting former Packers defensive lineman James Esther to offensive guard. So what they are building is essentially an adaptable organism. It's immune to the catastrophic collapse that always happens when a single superstar inevitably goes down.
Okay, but you have to look at what they sacrificed to build that so-called adaptable organism, right? I look at this roster and I see a front office where sheer volume is masking a severe, potentially fatal deficit in game-breaking talent. The downgrade at wide receiver alone is just monumental.
Well, it's a shift, definitely.
It's more than a shift. You simply cannot replace the elite duo of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle with mid-tier veterans and unproven rookies. It is a mathematical and strategic impossibility. And the draft class itself is fraught with these inherent risks that are just being smoothed over by the word versatility.
I think versatility is exactly what they need, though.
But look at how they're applying it. You use the 12th overall pick on a player you are immediately forcing out of his natural position. You're relying on a third-round rookie in Chris Bell who has a torn ACL. He will likely start on the PUP list, meaning he can't even practice during training camp to learn the offense. You absolutely cannot replace specialized game-breaking talent with an aggregate of position switch experiments.
Okay, you are hitting right on the exact friction point of this entire overhaul, which is the wide receiver room. Yes, Tyreek Hill was released, and Jalen Waddle was traded to the Broncos. We know that. But look at how they are structuring this offense around Malik Willis now. It is a classic Moneyball asset distribution.
Oh boy, the Moneyball argument.
No, seriously, hear me out. If you solidify the offensive line, isn't it smarter to distribute targets across a broader, more physical group of receivers? You have Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Malik Washington, and highly physical draft picks like 5th-rounder Kevin Coleman Jr.
Physical, sure, but
But the point is you are no longer held hostage by the availability of an aging, potentially injured Hill or a really expensive Waddle. You are spreading the defensive coverage by utilizing a diverse array of physical profiles. You're asking the defense to account for 5 capable guys rather than just double-teaming one superstar.
wait, I have to stop you there. Because the Moneyball analogy fundamentally breaks down when you apply it to the NFL and specifically to the wide receiver position.
How so?
In baseball, Billy Beane could use an aggregate of on-base percentage to replace Jason Giambi because the defense cannot dictate where the batter hits the ball. The interaction is relatively static. In football, the defense dictates absolutely everything if they do not fear you. And look at the reality of this receiver room.
They have capable guys.
Keepable? Malik Washington is a former number 3 receiver who averaged, 6.9 yards a catch last year. Jalen Tolgert, even with injuries giving him massive opportunities in Dallas, was never a true number 2. Dallas actively traded for George Pickens because they knew Tolbert couldn't shoulder that load.
Right, but
And Tutu Atwell was a clear number 3 for the Rams. None of these players possess the gravity of a superstar.
the gravity being the way they alter the safety alignments before the snap?
Exactly. Tyreek Hill possesses immense gravity. He forces defenses to play 2 high safeties, meaning 2 defensive backs have to stay deep at all times to prevent the deep pass, sacrificing a man in the run game.
Yeah, we've seen that for years.
Right. And that gravity opens up the rushing attack. It opens up underneath routes. It gives the quarterback cleaner throwing lanes. Jalen Tolbert and Tutu Atwell do not strike fear into defensive coordinators. They will just play single high safety, stack the box with 8 defenders against Malik Willis, and press these receivers at the line of scrimmage.
Well, they can try, but
And you can't rely on the rookies to fix his geometry. Chris Bell, who arguably has the highest ceiling of the group, tore his ACL in November at Louisville. He didn't practice all spring. Caleb Douglas is already sidelined with an undisclosed injury. You are asking a collection of role players to replicate the structural pressure of 2 of the most explosive players of this generation. It just doesn't work.
okay, you are entirely right about how Tyreek Hill dictates a too high safety shell. That gravity's real. I won't argue that. But it is also a single point of failure. If that one player tweaks a hamstring, which, let's be honest, was a constant concern with Hill, the entire offensive structure collapses because the play calling was predicated on his unique speed.
Sure, injuries happen.
But the entire logic of this overhaul is about shifting the offensive geometry. You're doubting the wide receivers, but that assumes they need to win the exact same way they did last year. The whole point of shifting capital away from the receiver room was to fundamentally change how they beat the defense. You don't need to beat them with pure speed over the top if you can consistently out-leverage them and bully them in the trenches.
Bully them?
Yes. By drafting Kadeen Proctor at 12th overall, they are building a different kind of gravity.
Wait, drafting a tackle to play guard is brilliant foresight for bullying in the trenches? At what developmental cost?
The developmental cost is mitigated by the biomechanics of the player and the long-term roster flexibility. Proctor brings massive, overwhelming size to the left guard position immediately. When you are running a zone scheme, having a guard who can absolutely displace a defensive tackle changes the math in the box just as much as a fast receiver does.
I don't know about just as much.
But the strategic brilliance here is the flexibility. The Dolphins know Austin Jackson is their right tackle right now, but they don't have to re-sign him in 2027 if his market value explodes. They already have Proctor in the building, learning the blocking scheme, adjusting to the speed of the NFL, and he is perfectly capable of sliding out to right tackle when needed.
That assumes he develops perfectly, though.
It is future-proofing. It's the exact same logic they applied to Chris Johnson in the first round. The secondary lost Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas, and Kader Kohu. Instead of drafting 3 specialized players, they drafted 1 elite athlete in Johnson, who operates seamlessly inside at nickel and outside on the boundary. Versatility is efficiency.
See, versatility is frequently a euphemism for doesn't excel anywhere at the professional level. Let's look closely at Proctor. Playing tackle on the edge requires entirely different spatial awareness, footwork, and reaction timing than playing guard.
They're both offensive line positions, though.
Right. But a tackle is operating in space, utilizing kick slides to match the speed of edge rushers. A guard is playing in a phone booth, executing post steps to immediately anchor against 330-pound defensive tackles. You are taking a premium 12th overall pick and stunting his development at his natural position by forcing him to learn interior leverage.
It's a transition, yeah.
Furthermore, you are placing him on an interior line right next to Jonas Havaina, who struggled heavily as a rookie starter last year.
Well, Sabaino was a rookie. Growing pains are expected on the offensive line. It's, one of the hardest transitions in sports.
Expected, yes. But compounding those growing pains by placing another rookie out of position right next to him, that is incredibly volatile. You are creating a blind spot on the left side of your line.
I think they can coach through that.
And the exact same logic applies to Chris Johnson on defense. Expecting a rookie cornerback to seamlessly replace 3 starting caliber veterans
by constantly shifting his responsibilities is asking for disaster. Playing boundary corner is about using the sideline as your extra defender and reacting to vertical routes. Playing the slot nickel position means you are dealing with a two-way go.
Yeah, receivers can break left or right.
Exactly. And you have massive run support responsibilities against pulling guards. They require totally different visual keys and drastically different processing speeds. You are banking on a rookie to immediately process the NFL at a veteran level across multiple, highly complex positions. That is asking for a blown coverage every Sunday.
I think you are underestimating these players by assuming they are being thrown into the fire in a vacuum without veteran scaffolding or innovative coaching to protect them. This is where Sullivan and Hafley are really proving their worth in their unconventional depth maneuvers that support these versatile rookies.
Unconventional is one word for it.
Well, look at the offensive line depth they are constructing. They brought in Jamari Sawyer, a veteran, who actually proves my point about versatility working, given his highly successful snaps at both guard and tackle with the Chargers. But the move that truly demonstrates elite, out-of-the-box talent evaluation is what they're doing with James Esther.
Oh, come on. The practice squad defensive lineman, you're using that as a point of structural integrity?
Absolutely I am. They are auditioning a 289-pound defensive lineman from the Packers practice squad on the interior offensive line. Now, on the surface, yes, that sounds wild. But think about the underlying mechanism of line play in this specific scheme.
I am thinking about it, and it sounds terrifying.
Hafley and Sullivan saw Esther in Green Bay. They know his power, his movement skills, and his natural leverage. Center Aaron Brewer thrives in this exact blocking scheme at just 295 pounds. Esther is 289. He already possesses the raw strength, the heavy hands, and the hip mobility required to win the leverage battle in the trenches.
But he doesn't know how to pass block.
Is an incredible way to manufacture depth without spending premium draft capital or salary cap space. It shows they understand the core physical traits required to execute their system, regardless of the label traditionally slapped on the player.
I have to jump in here because relying on an undersized, converted defensive lineman with zero offensive experience to compete for a final roster spot doesn't border on brilliant scouting, it borders on hubris.
Hubris, just to look for physical traits where other front offices aren't looking?
To think you can simply reprogram a player's core athletic instincts at the absolute highest level of the sport is hubris, yes. Playing defensive line is fundamentally about aggression, penetration, and reacting to movement. You are taught to fire off the ball and disrupt.
Right. Playing offensive line is about synchronization, pass sets, patience, independent hand usage, and moving as a cohesive five-man unit. It takes years to unlearn the instinct to lunge. You cannot just teach a 289-pound practice squad defensive tackle to anchor against an NFL bull rush from a specialized 3 technique, a defensive tackle explicitly trained to shoot gaps.
It's definitely a project. I'll give you that.
If James Esther is genuinely a serious option for offensive depth in Miami, that doesn't highlight brilliant, out-of-the-box thinking. It highlights a terrifying lack of genuine depth on the offensive line. It means they actively failed to acquire developed offensive linemen during this massive 13-pick overhaul.
Look, there's definitely a steep learning curve, but the history of the league has plenty of successful position converts who had the requisite foot speed and hip flexibility. But let's look at the other side of the ball for a second. Because if we are evaluating this draft class's structural integrity and its foundational playmakers, we have to look at the undeniable crown jewel of this 13-pick haul, second-round linebacker Jacob Rodriguez.
Oh, he is a fantastic player. No argument there.
He is more than fantastic. Securing a 2025 Heisman Trophy finalist in the second round is a franchise-altering steal. We are talking about a player whose entire collegiate profile was built on an elite tackling radius and forcing turnovers in the middle of the field.
Yeah, his tape is incredible.
Right? When you are undergoing an offensive transition, integrating Malik Willis, waiting for receivers like Chris Bell to get healthy, shuffling the offensive line geometry, you absolutely need a defense that can dictate the pace of the game. Rodriguez provides immediate, game-changing playmaking. He anchors the second level of the defense.
He does.
His ability to instantly diagnose play-action passes and secure open-field tackles immediately elevates the floor of this entire team. A linebacker who can force fumbles and generate interceptions completely offsets the growing pains of the offense by giving Malik Willis short fields to work with.
Okay, I will readily acknowledge that Jacob Rodriguez is an absolute steal. His processing speed is off the charts. His tackling mechanics are flawless. He is a day-one starter and a phenomenal football player. But I have to offer a massive critical caveat to his impact on this specific roster.
Which is?
Football is the ultimate complementary sport. A single elite linebacker cannot mask a completely depleted secondary, and he certainly cannot mask a toothless passing attack.
But his ability to force turnovers directly helps a transitioning offense. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, it is symbiotic if he is fresh enough to make those plays in the fourth quarter. But let's run the simulation on how this actually plays out on a Sunday based on the roster we just broke down. If Malik Willis and this Moneyball receiver room of Tutu Atwell and Jalen Tolbert cannot sustain drives on third down because defenses are stacking the box and pressing them, what happens?
Well, they'll lean on the run.
And if they get stopped, the offense goes 3 and out. They punt, the defense goes right back onto the field. If the offense cannot stay on the field because they lack the game-breaking weapons to move the chains, Rodriguez and this defense are going to play 80 snaps a game.
That's a worst-case scenario.
It's a very realistic scenario. You can be a Heisman finalist, you can be an elite tackler, you can process the game at light speed, but by week 6, playing 80 snaps a game, you are going to be overworked, physically exhausted, and a step slow. The roster imbalance neutralizes his impact. You cannot have a robust foundation if one side of the house is entirely caved in.
I see the structural concern you're raising about snack counts and complementary football, but I fundamentally disagree that the offensive side is caved in. It is just built differently. It's designed to sustain drives through the run game and short physical passing, rather than relying on 50-yard bombs. The Dolphins are doing exactly what a forward-thinking franchise should do in a salary cap league.
By getting rid of all their stars?
They aren't held hostage by massive superstar contracts that cripple the middle class of the roster. Instead, they have laid a 13-pick foundation anchored by physical, highly versatile players like Jacob Rodriguez, Caden Proctor, and Chris Johnson. They are supplementing that core with clever, trait-based depth maneuvers like Jamari Salyer and James Esther. This overhaul values structural integrity, adaptability, and long-term sustainability over individual stardom. It is a resilient blueprint explicitly designed to weather the brutal 17-game attrition of an NFL season.
See, I just think this strategy ignores the fundamental reality of the modern NFL. It remains unequivocally a star-driven league. The massive deficit in elite talent, particularly the incomprehensible downgrade from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to injured rookies and depth veterans, leaves this 2026 roster completely devoid of the necessary firepower to actually compete against top-tier teams in January.
We'll see about that.
You can draft all the versatile pieces you want. You can cross-train tackles to play guard, and you can try to teach defensive linemen how to pass block. But aggregate talent simply cannot replace the singular, game-altering impact of true superstars.
Well, that is exactly what makes this upcoming 2026 season such a fascinating case study for the entire league. We're going to see, in real time, which team-building philosophy holds water.
It is the ultimate test of theory versus reality on the gridiron. The performance of these versatile rookies and unconventional depth pieces will definitively answer our debate. And frankly, a lot of it is going to hinge on things we still have to explore as training camp progresses. Specifically Chris Bell's health timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. If he can get off the PUP list early, learn the offensive system, and emerge as that reliable #1 target, the math of that offensive geometry changes slightly.
It definitely would.
There is so much more to uncover as we watch this roster gel, or, as you suggest, fracture under the intense pressure of the regular season. Will an interlocking, flexible lattice of 13 draft picks and converted veterans prove stronger than the undeniable, top-heavy superstar talent they left behind? Only time and the grueling attrition of an NFL season will tell. Thank you for joining us for another deep dive into the architecture of the game here on NFL Nexus.
Remember to subscribe and hit that join button.
Keep questioning the blueprint, and we will see you next time.